Welcome to the Resonate podcast with Aideen. I'm Aideen Riada, and my guest today is Samantha Gutowski. She is a mindfulness and executive coach who guides people to quiet the noise and realign with what truly matters. Her business, Be Here Now Baby, brings intention, presence, and grounded leadership into everyday life. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor. And I love the natural emotion that hearing those words bring to my eyes. I feel a little teary just hearing it said back to me. So thank you for reading it so beautifully.
You know, I think it's an interesting thing. This is something I've experienced with other guests as well, and myself.
Yeah.
You know, we write our bio and we're saying what we are or who we are. And then when someone reads it with a deep meaning of the truth of that, and you start to see that reflected back to you at that real power.
Yeah.
It is emotional.
It is.
You know, because we are so much more than the person we live in our mind, that every day is just one aspect of who we are.
Yeah.
When you meet a client, this is who you are. This is, you know, Sam, the executive coach, the mindfulness coach. I'm curious though, how did you discover mindfulness and start to make that part of your work?
Yeah. So to make a very long story short, I was not a mindful being. I was a happy being. I was a lively being, but I never found that mindfulness was a part of my life. Presence was not something that was common. I was go, go, go. I did not stop to really feel where I was and really be fully present in what I was doing. And I was a travel writer, so I was traveling all over the world and writing about places that I had been and sharing my experiences of travel with others. And yes, when I was on a mountaintop looking over at a beautiful view, I was present because it kind of forces you to be, right? It's impossible not to be. But when it came to everyday life, that's why I craved travel so much, because I wasn't experiencing that full presence moment very often. And I was in Thailand for an assignment, and I thought, I'm going to try out one of these mindfulness meditation retreats and write about it. I have some, back when I was doing this job, I had some opportunity to create some of my own stories. So I went to this wonderful, wonderful retreat in Chiang Mai called Swan Sati. And it was one of those experiences where it completely changed my life. People say like, oh, you're not going to go to just a 6-day thing and you're a completely new person. For me, I really was.
Wow.
I felt like my core was the same. It's not like I was, complete 180. But I learned how to calm my mind and how to be kinder to myself and how to slow down and not look at my phone and live for me versus what I thought other people wanted me to do. So I learned what mindfulness was, and the founder of this wonderful retreat, Will, at the end said, okay, it was very easy to be present here in Chiang Mai, no distractions. You're doing this wonderful, you're being led through yoga and quiet time and silent mornings. And now the real work starts. You're going back to everyday life. And I was like, oh shit, like, here we go. How will I bring this into my life? And very, very slowly in baby steps started to make some changes. And so mindfulness for me is really less than a decade old, but it's something that hit me fast in a way that I realized I want to move through the world in a more mindful way, and just did it for me. I had no plans to make my entire living around mindfulness or teach anyone else how to do it. I thought there's no way I'm going to do this for someone else. I'm just going to do it for me. And then people started to notice, friends and family say, you're more calm, you're more happy, you're more grounded. So that's really, for me, it was a retreat in Thailand and how mindfulness came my way.
That's so beautiful.
Thanks.
I recognize that that feeling though at the end of something beautiful or like a vacation, where you start to internally almost panic that you have to go back.
Yep.
I did a retreat. It was with the Berkeley Psychic Institute.
Oh, wow.
So my sister was living in San Francisco. She sends me an email. Do you want to go on a retreat with the Berkeley Psychic Institute? I said, I'll need more convincing than that. And we went, and we neither of us had done any courses with them or anything. And they were doing all these cool things like bringing the sun down into your head and creating these, connections between us so that we'd travel together in one train. And we went for a mindful walk and all of these beautiful things. And on the way back, halfway back to San Francisco, we stopped somewhere, and I started to realize I actually need to go back. And I realized there was so many things I actually needed to change.
Yeah.
In order for me to feel this peacefulness and this happiness when I went back to my everyday life.
Yep.
Because mindfulness isn't about avoiding life, is it?
Quite the opposite. But it feels, in that moment when it's something that's new for you, I can really relate when you say, then you realize, no, actually, if you want the life that you maybe feel deep down you want to live, these changes do have to happen. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to be overnight. It's impossible for them to be overnight, really, in a lot of ways. But it was such a beautiful moment of saying, okay, there's not one way to live life, and you can try these different things, and you're not behind. You're right on time. Mm-hmm. So this sounds like an incredible experience that you had.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, I didn't really know how to live mindfully at that point, but I did make some changes. I started to face things differently. But one of the books that really helped me find that mindfulness was The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And I started to be more present in my body. Is that one of the strategies that you use a lot with your clients?
Yeah. That book is a huge part of my life as well. Something that I pick up. That one and The Untethered Soul are ones that I reference at least once a year, like either rereading or a few chapters. But coming back into your body, and you did it just when we were doing the warm-up here of kind of setting intentions and checking in with our voice, is so often we're living our life in anything that we're doing for others or outside of our body. I can have this and I'll achieve this in the future, versus how can I experience the now in my body, in exactly what I'm doing, how I'm speaking, what I'm speaking about right here, right now. And that book is actually one that I picked up almost 10 years before I even went to this retreat. I had a friend reading it, actually someone I was dating at the time, and I read a chapter and thought, what the heck is this? This sounds powerful and wonderful, but I am nowhere near able to even read a sentence of this and it making sense. And now I think I eat, breathe, and live those words. So yes, coming into your body and saying, and it is so difficult for someone who's never heard that sentence even before, right? When you say, hey, come into your body when you're thinking this or feeling this, when you're moving through this, and they think, what does that mean? How do I even get there? And so it's the beautiful reminder of, I want you to just try to humor me on what that even means, and what that would feel like if you could try.
And it's an experience. I mean, it's actually thinking about it doesn't get you there.
Nope. I wish. I know a lot of people wish that it did, but you really have to come into your body. You have to have your all awareness when it comes to that. That mindfulness piece really comes into play. And so we practice this with my clients, which is, what would that again look like if you tried? And have you ever witnessed someone else really in their body when they're doing something? And then they'll say, oh yes, I went and saw a performance and someone was so in their body and present in what they wanted to maybe share with the world. And then I think, okay, how do we take where you are and get closer to where that is? And of course, it can feel really overwhelming. And that's what I love most about what I do is I take these giant dreams and hopes and goals and aspirations that people think about every day of their lives. And they say, okay, now let's break that down into manageable, practical baby steps that you can do. How can you live in your body for just a moment today?
Mm-hmm. One of the things I noticed with myself, I think different people have different access point to being in the moment. It's not the same solution for each person.
Yep.
And I recognized this one day. I was sitting having a meal, and a song came on, and I started to bop along to the song, and I basically my meal was secondary to the song at that moment.
Yeah.
And I realized how powerful listening was for me as an access point to being in the moment. What kind of practical strategies do you suggest to your clients to help them find what makes what helps them get back into that moment?
Yeah, this is so important, and I think so often missed because we think, okay, I want to be more mindful. So here's the list of ways I can be more mindful that some random mindfulness coach shared on Instagram, and I'm going to try those out. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways to be more present, and listening is one for some people. Nature is one that I always recommend first because a lot of people do find that they can be very present in a way that they can't anywhere else if they just go and walk on a trail, or if you're in a city, sit under a tree in a park. What I love about this example is I have had a few clients say, that sounds like my absolute nightmare. I have no desire to be in the woods ever. And for me, I think, no way. Like, nature is my favorite place to be. I could not be more present than there. And that's been such a wonderful part of that learning of coaching, of you think you know how clients will react or how I'm going to show them something that will work. And then you learn, hey, this isn't for them. So again, going back to that, what we talked about earlier, which is I just want you to try to humor yourself of if you've seen someone else be present, how do you think you could get there? So I will start with a very basic list: meditation, humming, walking through nature, journaling. Do any of those sound like something you wanted to try before? And they may say, you know what? When I journal, I do feel like I am not thinking about anything else in the world. Okay, great. So that's a way that you find presence. The person next to them might say, I don't feel present at all when I'm journaling. Mm-hmm. So for you, when that song came on, it took you completely out of everything else around you. And you were there. Maybe you were thinking about the first time you heard that song, or maybe the rhythm or the words reminded you of something else. Like no matter what it was, you were there. And that meal was like, I'll get to it later. Mm-hmm. What I love about mindfulness is just how long the list actually is of how you can practice it. I have clients who will tell me, I've never been mindful in my life, so I have no idea where to start. I've heard it's important. I heard it would be helpful, but I have no idea where. And then I'm always taking that as a challenge of, I know they've been present before. They just maybe don't know what that looked like, or they didn't realize it was that way. So I had a client the other day, loves looking for Petoskey stones in general, but Petoskey stones.
Well, for those who don't know Petoskey stones.
Oh, true. Not everyone will know this.
We have an international listenership here. So Petoskey is a place here in Michigan where both of us live. Tell us a little bit about Petoskey stones, just to give the context.
Yeah, so Petoskey stones are fossils, and they're only found in, I believe, Wisconsin and Michigan. I think probably, I know up in the UP as well, maybe on the lines of Canada. Now I feel like I should know much more about Petoskey stones, but they're a very special stone here that's only found in this part of the world. And if you have never seen a Petoskey stone before, in this story, just think of if you like searching for stones in general. So if you're walking the shoreline, you're rarely thinking about your problems. You're just looking for the stone. And it's any type of foraging as well. So if you forage for mushrooms or look for anything, you are so all there. that's mindfulness. That's present moment awareness. And so when people open their mind to that, they start realizing, oh, mindfulness isn't just sitting on a cushion and meditating. Now, it's a beautiful way to practice present moment awareness, and I love meditation. But what I always encourage people to find is, what does mindfulness look like to you? So I know that was a very long way of answering your question, but just encouraging people to, if they've been interested in mindfulness before, what interests them about it? Mm-hmm. Is it that they want to be, that they feel like they're go in their life and never have an opportunity to slow down? Do they feel like they aren't comfortable in their thoughts? Okay, how can we find a way to get closer there? So it's like a scavenger hunt with yourself. And we all know once you start doing this, it can feel a little scary. It can feel a little overwhelming of like, I don't want to be quiet with my thoughts. They're not nice. Mm-hmm. They're scary. They're overwhelming. And what I always encourage people to do is say, choose your hard. It is going to be hard the next 10 years to always have those scary thoughts and never maybe acknowledge them and see what they're there to teach you and maybe help you unlearn or heal from. That's going to be hard. Or if we're just going to keep moving forward with them and doing nothing about them, that's going to be hard too. Mm-hmm. So I love that mindfulness can open so many doors and heal us in so many ways, but we have to be willing to listen. And in order to do that, we have to find a way that we learn how to still our minds, right? So for you, that music comes on, you're all there. You can do so much with that presence if you allow it.
Yeah. And it's an exploration, like you said, a scavenger hunt. It doesn't have to be something heavy or too serious. Mm-hmm. And I think when we look at kids, right, they're very present in the moment, and they're in play. They're in their joyful plays. So we can start somewhere joyful. We can start doing things that are the easy things.
Yeah.
But life can be hard. And I know that you support people through very difficult times as well. How can you transfer something like mindfulness into a time when you're feeling at your worst, or when you're dealing with something really traumatic?
Yeah. My work has, brought me to many different focus points in the last 5 years of being a mindfulness coach and focusing more on that. I never thought it would look a specific way, like this is the only way I'm going to coach. But mindful grief has been a huge part of my business the last few years. I had shared a video on Instagram of just what it looked like for me to grieve mindfully. I lost my aunt, one of my favorite people in the world. And this was right when I was starting my business. So it's not like it was yesterday. And I still very much am grieving her and miss her terribly. And what I've learned is, and this takes time, so if you're someone that's recently grieving someone that you love, know that this is going to be hard to honor right in the moment when it's happening. I just try to always remind people to allow the feelings to come how they need to. And the reason I'm saying this is because grief is, again, just like mindfulness, not a one size fits all. We all grieve differently. But when it comes to hard feelings, right? So being mindful, like you said, for joy, even though it's hard, it is much more enjoyable than being mindful for grief. Mm-hmm. But what happens is if we don't honor what's present, if we don't honor the feelings that are coming up, the best way to, even though grief may stay with us for a long time, if we don't honor what's really coming up for us, we will trip over it later. It will always be there. Now, again, that doesn't mean the hurt of that person being gone goes away, but it means us honoring what we felt and really saying, okay, I'm going to schedule grief today. So this is how this kind of started for me. When I would miss my aunt, I would put on one of her sweatshirts because I was able to keep a few of her pieces of clothing, and I would literally put it on my calendar. You're gonna grieve your aunt today, because if I didn't make time for it, it will still come randomly. I mean, right? You can't control grief. You can't say, I'm going to schedule it once a month so then it won't come up randomly at the grocery store. But what happens is I fully allow myself to honor that. So again, mindfulness, the definition, the present moment awareness with no judgment. It is so rare for us to experience grief and not judge it. Us as humans, I feel bad for this. I feel terrible for maybe taking time for this. I feel silly for still missing this person. It's been years. But grief is really, I love the quote, grief is love with nowhere to go.
Oh,
You loved this person so much and you can't tell them. So how can you sit with that? So again, to answer your question, how do you be present for hard moments? The short answer is you just do it. And the more detailed answer is you hold yourself with so much love and compassion when you do it, so that 10, 20, 30 years from now, you can say, I'm proud of myself for feeling that and for being present for it. What I've learned for me personally and for helping clients that are going through grief is so often they try to move past it, because a lot of people say, with time, it gets better. With time, it gets better. So I'm just going to keep moving. I'm going to keep going forward. But what I've learned is that if we really hold space for it, it has so much to teach us, which it might be, wow, I miss talking about this person. I haven't said their name in a long time, so I'm going to do that for me today. Or I haven't thought about all the happy moments in a while. So the hard parts of being present for grief also bring forward a lot of joyful moments that typically get missed because we're just moving past it. Mm-hmm. So that's a very basic explanation of being present for hard moments. But what we've learned, and I'll tap into a little nerdy science for a second, is our emotions last so much shorter if we actually feel them. And I'm talking about the hard emotions here. So if you're frustrated and you just keep saying, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm not frustrated, it typically likes to linger a little bit longer and you're telling everyone you know about it. But if you stop and say, I am really frustrated, I'm going to be present for my frustration, that really hurt my feelings. I felt really silly when someone talked to me that way and it made me feel embarrassed and I didn't like how they talked to me. I'm holding myself with love. I'm putting my hand over my heart and saying, I'm going to be present for this frustration. I'm going to take a deep breath. Typically, that frustration likes to say, okay, thank you for honoring me. Now let's move forward. Now, when you hear that for the first time, if you've never done that, it feels like, what the heck is that? But again, we have the science now to prove if we really honor our emotions, they last between 60 and 90 seconds. Typically, we attach and bring them with us for weeks or hours or months. Yeah. So mindfulness allows us to be present for the good, the bad, the ugly. And it typically allows us to honor them enough to be able to say, now I gave them what the attention they deserve and I can move forward.
I love that. There was something you mentioned earlier as well, was the judgment. Because if we have an emotion, like I think anger is one of the ones we really judge quite a lot. We feel angry, we're like, oh, I shouldn't be angry. And you pretend that you're not angry and it just comes out maybe in your tone of voice a little, or, we kind of repress it. Do all emotions kind of trip us up in that way if we judge them? Like, what would you say to help someone to start to accept those uncomfortable emotions and not judge them so harshly?
Yeah. So first, what I would say to them is, you're not silly or wrong for thinking this way, because our society has set us up to say, don't be angry, get over it, push past it. And most of us grew up with that, either seeing it in real life or in movies or on podcasts, whatever it is, right? And then what I would say is, what would you say to, if you have a child or a niece or nephew, right? Not everyone has children. I personally don't, but this works really well with me for nieces and nephews too. So if you have a 2-year-old that you just love dearly and they're the light of your life, and they say, I'm really angry, that hurt my feelings. Rarely, if you're a loving parent or aunt or uncle, would you say, yeah, get over it. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, we've all had that said to us, but maybe people that have loved us and really seen us and given us the attention that we deserve would pick you up and they would hold you and they would say, I'm so sorry that your feelings were hurt. I'm going to give you a hug and hope it feels better. Mm-hmm. And then usually once you put that kid down and they felt that love, they're right back to building their blocks. They're good to go. So what I would recommend, and this is, if you ask me at the end of this episode, what's the one thing I hope people take away? It's this. Start talking to yourself like you would your best friend or your daughter or your niece or your spouse, like someone that you love and want to hold with compassion. So if you say, I'm really angry and I feel like I need to judge myself because I should just get over it because life is good and it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, right? That voice in your head. This is why I love The Untethered Soul. They talk about being a witness to your thoughts.
That's the book you mentioned earlier.
Yes. And what happens is once we start talking to ourselves in a way that is kind and loving and compassionate, then all of a sudden we can move through the world in a way that feels like life is hard enough, so I might as well be nice to me and what my experiences is. Because if you ask anyone honestly, even someone who maybe has a life that has more privilege than someone else, and you say, would you say that there are hard parts of life? Yeah, life is hard. There are so many things that are changing constantly and things that we are learning and we're judging ourselves for what that looks like. So if life's already hard enough, how can you start to speak to yourself in a way that makes moving through life more manageable, more enjoyable? So those big feelings of judgment, and again, there's no special potion, there's no special affirmation to say, there's no trick to start doing this, but it's just getting really serious and really disciplined about how you speak to yourself and how you handle life. Now, there's so many things that can come with that, right? So if there's limiting beliefs or trauma from when you were a kid that you had to make sure that everything was okay, you may have deeper work to do. And there are so many wonderful people out there to support you in that as well. But I would say for the majority of us, or most people who have experienced little t trauma, right? Frustrations that are valid and relative, but still hard, we can start right now, right in this moment, to say, I'm just going to start speaking to myself in a kinder way. If my friend said, I'm having a really hard day, but it's ridiculous, I shouldn't be mad. If that's one of your best friends, I guarantee you would say something like, no, of course that hurt your feelings. Let me listen to you and hold you. Mm-hmm. How can we start doing that for ourselves? Is we just try. We try a little sentence. We try just a little shift in what that looks like. And it's one of my favorite things to watch. People start talking kinder to themselves. This was, for me, my largest leap in my growth. How I talked to myself in the mirror when I got ready. How I talked to myself when someone said no to a proposal for working with me. How I said to myself when I said something silly at someone at the grocery store, why'd you say that? Versus, hey, you said something that wasn't your best self. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. So hard to do. Not easy, but simple. And you can experience so many benefits with that.
That's awesome. And it reminds me of a practice that my meditation teacher suggested to a big group of us. I think there was maybe 40 or 50 people. And he said, no self-persecution for 1 month. And I thought, I can do that. I mean, I knew that I didn't look in the mirror and like sometimes you might see in a movie where someone's like berating themselves in the mirror and saying, oh, you're a terrible person. I knew I wasn't saying that. But within 2 days, like very quickly, I realized what I was doing was I was debating and criticizing myself for things that I had done a day earlier. Like I said the wrong thing. And I'd be thinking to myself, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And how could I have said it differently? And oh, I might have hurt their feelings. And I would be replaying something and being not able to let it go. And there was no solution. There was no way I could go back to that moment.
Right.
So I had to let it go. And I'm usually pretty good at saying sorry when I can. But like that, if you do the wrong thing, or it could have been more perfect, sometimes we can't go back and change it. We have to be able to let it go. So that was a really important practice for me.
Yeah.
And after a full month of of catching yourself and choosing to be kinder to yourself, you don't tend to go back to where you used to be.
Yes, it is very true. So many people say, but what do I actually do? Right? So like, what's the action of that? And you just said it perfectly. It's the catching. So it could be a sticky note on your mirror that says, remember, we're talking nice to ourselves, or an alarm on your phone, or you could share it with a friend like, hey, can we keep each other accountable? I want to talk nicer to each other and to ourselves, I mean. And once you start doing that, you realize how you move through your day differently. Again, life is hard, and we're actually choosing to make it harder in the way that we're talking to ourselves. Now, most of us don't even realize it. So again, this is not a shame thing. This is not like, how dare you? The majority of us are talking that way. So then it's more of, again, that self-compassion of, do I want to move through my life with this constant overthinking, negative thinking, or do I want to try to just pay attention and see if I can shift it? So exercise that works for me is I'll be saying, how could you have thought that way? Or why did you think that would be okay? And it still happens, right? And then I'll say, oh, no. Like I'll do this, like I try to make a fun, like, oh, wait. Sammy Ray, we don't talk to ourselves that way. You would never say that to a friend. Let's try to be a little bit nicer to ourselves. Let's just see how that goes. Mm-hmm. Be very practical, very kind and playful with it. All of a sudden the shoulders soften and you smile and you think, oh yeah, life's too short to be mean to myself. So that's just, if I could help every human being in this world just start to be a little kinder to themselves, just that, I think that we would see such beautiful benefits and changes in our world.
And for yourself, mindfulness obviously has changed your life, but now that you actually have it as a part of your work, what kinds of other things did you allow into your life because now you are starting to be kinder to yourself and starting to really be more here?
Yeah, that makes me smile really big because I think of how my life has changed. And again, my life was not miserable before. I'm not saying that I have a completely different world, but for me personally, when we think about finding our voice and the things that you and I have talked about, what that looks like, I was someone who went to bed most nights thinking there's got to be something else out there for me. I feel like I like what I do and I'm having fun with what I do, but there's something deeper that I want to be of service, or I want to be able to hear more people and love more people. I want to help more people. So what I've allowed into my life because of mindfulness is to actually allow myself to do that. And it sounds small, but it's so huge. Once you start talking nicer to yourself, once you allow yourself to be more present, you start to realize that you are deserving of a life of, for me, relationships built off reciprocity. I personally had a lot of friends that I would give and give and give and listen to, and I loved them. It's not like they were bad people, but they were more draining for me than they didn't fulfill me, or I didn't leave feeling energized, right? So for me, my relationships changed in a huge way. My friend base, and I think this is part of getting older in general, but it got a little smaller, but the quality just 10x'd, right? Mm-hmm. I also allowed myself boundaries. I didn't used to I wanted to make everyone happy. I wanted to make sure that everyone else was good with how I was living. This is friends, family, old teachers, right? How can I make it sound like I'm doing something cool and impressive? So mindfulness allowed me to say, hey, are you okay with you? If the answer is yes, then we have to try really hard, and it's not easy, but to let go of what those opinions are. So my marriage improved. I introduced mindfulness into my relationship when I got back, and so grateful for my loving, open-minded husband who is the spreadsheet engineer mind. He's not first to be like, okay, let's talk about this emotional check-in, but was very loving and open to seeing how that could shift our relationship. So it's allowed more conflict resolution, kind conversations when we're having hard weeks, checking in with one another. And overall, it's just allowed me more happiness and allowed me to say, what is the life that I want in this one wild, wonderful life that I get, right? What do I want that to look like? And when you start to make these small shifts, they do start to open other doors to, oh, wait, I actually don't want that. So I'm going to close that one. And then this one over here that's open, I'm going to walk through that way. I, being honest, could go for an hour of how mindfulness has changed my life. But I think for me, the biggest one is going to bed at night and saying, ooh, I have happy tears because I got to watch someone, and I'll get emotional right now just thinking about it. I don't know if you have to be a mindfulness coach for 20 years to not cry about seeing client wins, but for me, I might always be here, and I'm grateful for that emotion. But I just had a client who came to me a year and a half ago that said, I don't think I'm worthy of love. I don't think I'm worthy of being nice to myself. And I said, that's okay. I'm grateful that you're honest and vulnerable. But do you want to try to maybe believe that you are? And a few weeks ago, I heard her say, you know what? I am worthy of a beautiful life. And that power, that work of unlearning, and she's in her 60s, so it's never too late to start to be nice to yourself and live the life that you want. Or another client that says, you know, I want to stop saying every year that I want to spend more time with my family versus work. And then they finally say, I just booked my first vacation in 5 years because this is important to me too. So those type of moments will always just excite me to keep doing this and encouraging people to say, hey, we can live a world that, yes, you're making money, and yes, you're making a living, and yes, you're doing these things that maybe you felt were really important, but also feeling like your heart is fulfilled and that you're doing something that feels like there's some sort of work-life rhythm or excitement in what feels good to you. So yeah, I feel like I could sit here and just name a bunch of wins for me and clients where just try it. Try the present moment awareness and see if it helps you in any way.
It's beautiful. Well, we have to start wrapping things up now, Sam. I'm really sorry.
No, we could be here for hours.
We could, because there's so many aspects to it, because I think you can bring mindfulness into the tough moments, the joyful moments, into decision making, into conversations with friends, and in any moment it's going to deepen the presence. It's going to deepen your self-awareness and your understanding. There's a gift in that, a really big gift in that, and I love the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you'd like to say to the listeners before we start to sign off? Anything you'd like to remind them, or a final piece of advice?
My only reminder, or maybe even just, I don't think I've said this yet, but mindfulness meets you where you're at. So if you're someone who's listening to this and you think, this sounds awesome, but I have no idea how to get there, or I don't have time to put this into my life, I teach practical mindfulness, which is 5 minutes or less a day is what we start with. If you choose to grow that or choose to just keep 5 minutes, great. but mindfulness meets you where you're at. So if you feel like this is my life, and some people come to me and say, my life's on fire, how do I introduce mindfulness to it? It's the perfect place to start. Or if you feel like, hey, my life's pretty calm, but I want to be more present for this, it is there to help you start to just anchor in your breath and your inhales and exhales, and just notice what comes up when you're doing that. Typically, we think we don't know what we need to do or where we need to go, but we're just not present enough to listen, quiet enough to hear what our inner knowing knows, or maybe a thought that we heard years ago that's been in the back of our minds. So allow mindfulness to meet you where you're at. Take a little nugget from this and think, oh, I'm going to make a list of things I'm intrigued about mindfulness, ways to, meet present moment awareness, and create your own journey in that. Versus, my friend said that this mindfulness works for her, I'm going to do that. And if it doesn't, writing it off. See what works for you. So just remembering that it may feel foreign or new, but it is approachable if you let it meet you where you're at. And mindfulness is always there to do just that.
That's beautiful. Thanks again to Sam Gutowski. I'll be including her contact details in the show notes and encourage you to get in touch with her, find out about her work. We're both here for you, and we're very grateful that you've been listening. Thanks again from Aideen here at the Resonate podcast with Aideen. Goodbye.